for our classic web app users, whether you're a Google user or an Outlook user. This training session is designed for users that go into our website and go through the login page and select the classic option. We're going to go ahead and start in this view right here. So this view is designed for support staff and master users that have access to everyone in your organization. If you're an attorney, you will simply log in and see your cases that have been shared with you. So I'm going to go ahead and select an attorney that I want to set up a case for. I'm going to go ahead and select Michael and open their law toolbox. Here, we're going to see a list of all of the active cases that Michael is involved in. I want to quickly point out that some cases that have initials at the end means that they're set up under a different primary attorney. And the ones that don't have an initial means they've been set up under Michael and additional attorneys have been shared if needed. Here, you can search for any cases that you're looking for, filter by the matter number, or sort by created date and modified date to see your latest cases. We're going to go ahead and set up a new case. I'm going to go ahead and click in the top left-hand corner to set up case. And here I can give my case a nickname, select my state and my rule set. So our default is Colorado for this particular session, but I can change to any jurisdiction in this drop down here on the left-hand side. We'll go ahead and stay with Colorado. We'll go ahead and name our case and select our rule set. So under our Colorado state, we have several different rules that are available for you to choose from. So you'll just choose the one that applies to your case. We'll go ahead and select District Court Civil and click Next. Here we can select whether we represent plaintiff or defendant and put in our court case number in here. We can select our court location, whether it's Arapahoe County or Denver County. Matter number is going to be an internal number that relates to your billing information. We'll go ahead and put that in. And then we can also include a client name. We'll go ahead and select the expedited setup. And as best practice, we recommend that the expedited setup is selected. Otherwise, it's going to ask you several questions about your case. We'll go ahead and click Next and accept the license agreement down at the bottom of the screen. And now on the next step, we can select the users that will also be working on this case. So here, I'll go ahead and select additional attorneys that will be working on this matter. And I can select support staff that will also be helping work this case. We'll go ahead and select June and click Continue. Now it takes you to a deadline chart for your matter. Because we just set up this case, there's nothing to show here, so we're going to go calculate our deadlines first. To do that, I'm going to go ahead and click on the trigger dates in the left-hand corner, and it's going to take me to a table of available trigger dates for our jurisdiction. So here on the left-hand side, you will see the primary trigger dates, and on the right-hand side, you'll see the secondary trigger dates. Primary trigger dates are going to be events that happen once in the life of your case, whether it's a commencement date or a trial date. You can enter it as those dates appear for your cases and save your changes. On the secondary trigger dates, you're going to be able to add additional motions, discoveries, post-judgments, anything that can happen many times over in the life of your case. So we're going to go ahead and plug in a couple dates for our case. So we'll say our commencement date was today. We'll say the waiver of service was signed also today, and we'll say it was in Colorado. Otherwise, we can select any methods of service or additional notes that will change the calculation. We'll go ahead and scroll down to the bottom of this page and also add our trial date. We'll go ahead and say this happens early next year. We'll say it's going to be April 3rd. A helpful tip would be to use your keyboard to click Control F and search for any specific trigger dates or entries that you'd like to enter. And we can just type in trial in the top right-hand corner, and it's going to highlight all of the trial-related triggers. We'll go ahead and close this. And now that we've put in all the dates that relate to our case, we're going to go ahead and click Save Changes. Now what the system is doing is it's calculating all the dates related to what we put into the system, and now it takes us back to our deadline chart. In this deadline chart, you will see all the deadlines that were populated based on the 3 dates we've entered in the trigger dates page. To review these dates, we'll go ahead and focus on the first one. If I hover over this date, it's going to give us additional information of how this deadline was calculated and if there is any additional codes that may be governing this deadline. Additionally, you'll also see the authority column on the right-hand side that will take you directly to the court authority that governs this deadline. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see the day this deadline is due. Any dates that have been completed could be marked as done. So let's say these two were already completed. I can select the box on over here and click the done button at the top. And what it's going to do is it's going to add a label saying done for my deadlines that have been taken care of. And that's going to be part of our calendar entries, our reports, and our email reminders. If for some reason there is a deadline that does not apply to our case, we can simply hide it from this deadline chart. So let's say this particular entry does not apply here. I'm going to go ahead and select the dates that don't apply and hit the hide button. Now they're no longer showing at our deadline chart, and they will appear at the bottom of the screen in our hidden deadlines. If for some reason those deadlines do apply for your date, we can go ahead and reactivate them. So let's scroll up to the top. There's a few things we can add to our deadlines to further customize them. We can edit the entry to either move it to a new date or add additional notes to why this deadline is on a different date, whether it's a governed scheduling order that's moved this date for us, or just a mutual agreement that these dates have been extended. You can also make a case note that will relate to all of the deadlines applicable for this particular matter. And we have a rule set note available to apply across all of our Colorado District Court civil rules. E-tickle is going to be an e-tickle reminder that goes out 7 days before your deadlines are due. So each one of the entries we see here, whether they have an e-tickle preview or not, will generate a 7-day email reminder to everyone who's on the case. And all the users we've previously selected will be on CC to that email reminder so they can start communicating on their upcoming deadlines. If I'm a master support user, I can also click on the e-tickle and send this email reminder to our users ahead of time because this is perhaps a time-consuming deadline. We can go ahead and click send email at the bottom of the screen. To come back to our deadline chart, there's additional things that will be helpful managing these deadlines. History is going to give you a history of changes of who worked on this particular case, who scheduled the deadlines, when they modified them, and what they've been updated to. Mark Has allows you to label a deadline. So for example, done is our quick way of marking your deadline. And this link right here will make urgent labels, follow-up labels, and pending labels if needed. And then links allows you to change a particular deadline to have a Zoom hearing, for example, or if there's a specific cloud document that you want to associate with this deadline, we can add it in the link section. Here you'll see that if a deadline fell on a holiday or a weekend, the system will automatically note for you that these deadlines have been rolled from the system. So this right here fell on Christmas Day, and you can go ahead and see that it's actually been rolled to the nearest court date based on the rules of authority for your particular state. So let's go ahead and add the time for our trial date. So here's the trial date. We'll go ahead and click on the edit feature. And we'll go ahead and convert it to a time of day appointment. So we'll go ahead and select this box right here, and I can select our start time as 10 a.m. and it's going to go for 6 hours. Location is going to be courtroom A, and we'll go ahead and submit. So now this particular date is going to be a time of day appointment, which is going to block the times on our attorney's calendar and our support staff calendars. We'll go ahead and double check that. And now you see that this date has been moved to 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Mountain. So now that we've modified our deadlines and everything looks good based on our scheduling orders and all the dates are in place where we want them, we're going to go ahead and change our view from summarized to add to calendar. As best practice, we recommend that you use the modified on or after, and we'll go ahead and click switch. Now here, it's going to be selecting all of the future deadlines. So we have the checkboxes selected on the left-hand side for all the deadlines we're trying to push to our calendars. And I'll go ahead and add our attorney to the case. We'll go ahead and add James Stern. And we'll select the calendar as Outlook. and select our time zone as Mountain. We'll go ahead and click Add. So now Gene Contoso is getting all of the deadlines for this case in their Outlook inbox in just a moment. Once the system is done processing this request, you're going to get a pop-up message that says deadlines have been successfully sent to our user. Perfect. Now we see the pop-up message that says deadlines have been successfully sent to our attorney. And now we're going to go ahead and add our June 20 support user who is not on Outlook and is actually a Gmail user. So we're going to go ahead and select Gmail as our calendar, and we'll go ahead and click Add to our June calendar. In a moment, we'll go take a look at the Outlook version of these deadlines for Gene Contoso, and we'll go ahead and take a look at the June 20 calendar for our deadlines for this particular case. So let's go ahead and take a look at June 1st. So we have a commencement date that's happened today and a couple other deadlines. So we're going to go ahead and open our Gmail user and go to the calendar view. So here in the pop-up side, we have our Howard B. Frank deadlines on the calendar, and I can pop out to make this a bigger view. So here we have a week view of our calendar for Gmail, and I can go ahead and open these deadlines to see a longer description of what these dates are. So here we will have some additional information that's not included in the subject line of our calendar entry. If for some reason your deadlines have moved, all we have to do is edit them and recalculate them and push the update button to update the calendars. If the deadlines no longer apply, we can go ahead and click the remove button, and then we'll automatically remove all of these dates from June's calendar. So now let's go take a look at Gene Contoso's calendar. So here we have our Howard deadlines for today, and we'll go ahead and pop one of these open to see more details. So this right here will allow you to see the long description of the calendar. The URL will show up here for the court authority. Our system has safe links enabled, so it's a longer URL, but you will see just a direct link to the Colorado Rules of Civil Procedure. We'll go ahead and close this window and go back to Outlook. So now that we've sent all of these deadlines to our calendar for our attorney and our primary support staff, we can go ahead and download this report just to see all the dates that are coming up in a one chart view. So I'll go ahead and download this deadline chart and pop it open. Now that we have downloaded this deadline chart, we'll see a list of all of the deadlines in a chronological view for all of our upcoming dates for this particular case. You'll have the deadline description, you'll have the rule of authority, and the deadline date is due. And down at the bottom where we have our trial date with a start time, you'll see it right here and noted in the description. At the top of the chart, you'll also note that we have included the case name, the district where this case is in, and if we filled in the case number and matter information, that will show up here as well. Let's go ahead and close this and focus on other types of reports you can pull from Law Toolbox. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to Home. And this is going to be a list of all of our cases associated with this attorney. At the top of the screen, you'll see several report options. We have milestone options, which will give you some milestone events like trials and commencement dates and discoveries for your cases. And then we can also rely on a date range report. So here, it automatically defaults to about a 10-day time frame, but we can change it to any time frame we want. And we can go ahead and click Open to see all of our upcoming deadlines for this attorney. So right here, you will see the column with the date when this particular deadline is due, what the case is, the description of the deadlines, and then you'll see the primary attorneys and the staff who've been shared to that particular case. If there have been any notes or labels included in the deadline description, you will see it right here as well. And we can either print this document and have a physical copy of it, or we can send an email to anyone within our firm. So here, I can just go ahead and send it to June 20. We'll go ahead and send this. And one more thing to point out, at the top of the screen, we have no active appointments at this time for this particular time frame, but at the bottom of the screen, if we had an appointment, you would see a separate chart that just gives you our time of day entries for this particular attorney within our given time frame. So take a look at that report. I'll go ahead and refresh my Gmail, and we'll wait for it to come in just a moment. While we're waiting for that report to generate, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to use our secondary trigger dates for our cases. So I'm going to go ahead and filter our view to our created date so that way we see the case that we just created earlier today. We'll go to Howard v. Frank and go back to trigger dates. So let's say we had a motion or a discovery for our case. Simply what we're going to do is we're going to click Add on the right-hand side for our deadlines. We'll go ahead and add a discovery. This allows you to name your calculation. So that way, if you have multiple discoveries, you can name the specific type of discovery this was and the specific parties that were involved, and we can click Save and Continue. Here, we'll say the written discovery was served today, and then we'll go ahead and hit Save Changes. So now we have our view back to the deadline chart. And here I can click on the related deadlines just to see the calculation that were related to our discovery date. So obviously when our discovery was served today, we're going to get a deadline for our response deadline, which is going to be on September 20th for this upcoming date. So let's go back to trigger dates and see what a hearing would look like for this particular matter. Now you can see we have our discovery noted right here. So we already have one discovery on Jones, Roggs, on Smith, and we can add additional discoveries on other parties or other types of discoveries that may have happened. And let's go ahead and add a motion. So here we'll go ahead and add a SJ motion, and we'll click Save and Continue. Now this gives you additional information. So we'll say the date the motion was filed was today. The response is going to be filed on the 25th. And if we have a hearing, we'll go ahead and enter that in as well. So we'll go ahead and put this at the late September date, and we'll go ahead and hit Save Changes. These dates are going to be in the future, so we can always come back to this calculator and fill these in as they happen. We'll go ahead and hit Save Changes, and it will take us back to the deadline chart with those dates. So now I see the motion right here, and it's going to have the label Summary Judgment Motion. And when I click on Related Deadlines, we're going to see the 42-day deadline right here. Perfect. Let's go back to our deadline chart, and we can update the dates that we just updated to our calendar. So all of the users will get those dates on their calendar as well. So anytime we make an additional calculation, we're going to go ahead and push those dates to our user's calendar. So I'm going to go ahead and select those. And like I said earlier, we have a helpful tip that will allow you to search the deadlines. So we'll go ahead and look for SJ motion. Make sure all of those deadlines are selected. Perfect. So now I'm going to go ahead and add this to June's calendar, and we'll go ahead and click the Add button. Because these are new calculations, we're hitting the Add button, but if these motions were rescheduled or changed, we would have hit the Update button. And like I mentioned earlier, if these deadlines no longer apply, we can hit the Remove button and it will disappear from everyone's calendar. So now let's go take a look at June's calendar and see what we have for our upcoming deadlines that we just updated earlier. So on the left-hand side, you can see we have two more entries. So we have the motions and the discovery date, and the ones we previously pushed out a little bit earlier ago. And now we have our report in the inbox as well. So here you will see a list of all of the deadlines that we sent out and generated for our particular matter. And lastly, I want to show you how to run a milestone report. So we're going to go ahead and click the milestone button. And here we can select either the general litigation milestone report, or we can select a case sharing report if we want to look for a specific user or all of the active cases within our firm. I'll go ahead and click the report, and that's going to generate the report for all of our milestone entries for all of the cases we have open in the system. It's going to take a minute to generate, but this will show up in just a second. And here you will see a chart with our primary attorneys and whether we're representing plaintiff or defendant. And then we'll see the list of cases that have their milestone markers already scheduled. So this is a really helpful report to run on a monthly basis to get a good high-level overview of your upcoming dates. And then as a best practice, at the end of our session, when you're done calculating and working in Law Toolbox, if you have cases that you want to close, you can close it right here on the left-hand corner. And we can select any case that's no longer active, and it will be taken to your archives. If we wanted to switch our user to a different attorney and go calculate a different matter, we can click on My Users and select anybody else that we want to work on. So we'll go ahead and open Calvin, and you'll see a list of Calvin's matters right here. If we don't have any more calendaring to do, we'll just go ahead and simply log out of the system and close our Law Toolbox. Thank you so much for joining our training session, and hope you have a great day.